We all hear about the amazing future AI promises, right? But what happens when a community takes a look at that future and decides to slam the doors shut? Well, that's exactly what's happening in one small town, and we are going to break down precisely why.
I mean, it's a wild question when you think about it. Banning the future? It sounds totally backwards. We're always told that technology is progress, something we should be excited about. But what if that progress comes with a price tag that's just too high for the here and now? That is the real mystery at the heart of this story.
And our story kicks off right here with this headline from Bangor, Maine. The city council is actually fast-tracking an emergency ban on new data centers. I'm not talking about slowing them down or adding a few regulations. We're talking a full-on stop sign ban. The reason they're giving is a sudden and intense development pressure from the industry. So, what is really going on?
Okay, let's dive into our first section, a sudden ban in Bangor. We're going to take a closer look at what's happening right there on the ground.
So if you dig into the city's ordinance, they lay it all out. They're basically saying their existing rules are nowhere near ready for what these data centers demand. We're talking about these huge, unique strains on the power grid and local water systems, serious environmental impacts, noise pollution, and just the massive amount of land these facilities swallow up. You know, Bangor is essentially hitting the pause button because they feel completely unprepared for this new industrial wave.
And this quote from City Councilor Joe Leonard really gets to the heart of how people are feeling. You always hear about the jobs and economic boom that tech brings, right? But what he's arguing is that with data centers, that promise can feel pretty empty. Sure, you get some temporary construction work, but after that, there are very few long-term jobs, all while putting this heavy, permanent burden on the town's resources.
All right, next up, the Maine resistance. Because, as it turns out, this is way bigger than just Bangor. We're seeing a pushback across the entire state.
Yeah, this is absolutely not an isolated event. What's happening in Bangor is really just a symptom of a much bigger trend. All across the state of Maine, from tiny towns all the way up to the state legislature, there's this powerful resistance building against the AI industry's physical footprint.
And just look at how fast this has all escalated. It really started late last year, with local residents shooting down proposals in towns like Wissahickon and Lewiston. Then by March, all that local frustration came together in a statewide bill for a moratorium, and it actually passed the Maine House. And now in April, Bangor is taking matters into its own hands. You can just feel the momentum building from town halls all the way to the state capitol.
So what's really driving this intense backlash? Well, to get that, we need to zoom out from Maine and look at what might be the single biggest hidden cost of AI. Its incredible, incredible thirst for water.
See, these data centers, the physical backbone of all AI, they drink up water in three main ways. First, the most obvious one is direct cooling. The servers get insanely hot, and a popular way to cool them uses these evaporative systems that just lose a ton of water into the air. Second is the electricity. The power plants that generate the mind-boggling amount of energy these centers need, well, they use a huge amount of water too. And finally, there's a cost before you even build the thing. Making those advanced chips for AI requires just massive quantities of super pure water.
So just how much water are we really talking about? Brace yourself for this number. By 2027, the global water demand for AI is projected to be as high as 6.6 billion
Cubic meters. And to put that absolutely staggering number into perspective for you, that is roughly half of the total amount of water the entire United Kingdom uses in a whole year. Just for AI, it's an almost unimaginable scale of consumption.
And this demand is just accelerating like crazy. Just look at these year-over-year increases from the biggest names in the game. In 2022 alone, Microsoft's water use jumped by 34%. Google's went up by 20%. This isn't some slow, gradual increase. It is an exponential explosion, and it's being driven by this AI arms race. And hey, this isn't just us speculating. This data is coming straight from official sources, like this UK government report, which is starting to sound the alarm. It directly connects the dots between the energy the AI uses and the impact on water resources. It really highlights how tightly those two things are linked.
All of which brings us back to Maine and why what's happening there could be a massive early warning sign for the rest of us. Anirban Basu, an economist who keeps a close eye on this industry, he just put it perfectly. He called Maine the canary in the coal mine. It's the first state to get serious about a statewide ban, but he's predicting it's just the first of many.
And he's not wrong. The resistance that started in Maine is spreading. As we speak, lawmakers in at least 10 other states are looking at similar bills to either restrict or pause new data center construction. What started as a local fight is very quickly becoming a national conversation.
So, what does this all boil down to? Ultimately, it's a fundamental paradox, a real conflict at the heart of our technological future.
Now, to really get this conflict, you have to look at how governments are reacting. The UK, for example, just designated data centers as critical national infrastructure, or CNI. That puts them on the same level of importance as the water supply or the power grid. And while that's meant to encourage investment, it also means they can get priority access to resources, basically jumping to the front of the line, even in places where those resources are already scarce.
And this right here is the central conflict. On one side, you've got this immense global push for AI growth, driven by promises of economic dominance and this new, fancy critical infrastructure status. And on the other side, you have the physical reality, the massive strain on water and energy, the environmental impact, and this growing backlash from the communities who actually have to live with the consequences.
And let's be really clear. This is not just some abstract environmental debate. Resource scarcity has real, hard economic costs. I mean, in the UK, projections are showing that water shortages could cost the economy £25 billion just from putting a stop to new housing projects. So when giant data centers start competing for that exact same limited water, the economic trade-offs become an incredibly stark.
Which leaves us with this one fundamental question. The digital world of AI, it's being built on the finite resources of our physical one. The story of Bangor, Maine isn't really an attack on progress. It's a demand that we stop and acknowledge the true cost of that progress. And how we answer this question is going to define our relationship with technology for decades to come.